Yo, what's up world? This is Dane Tomas and you're listening to the Dane Tomas podcast. Every week I talk to experts, weirdos, new friends and old ones about everything from magic to business to creativity and human awakening. So strap yourself in, lay back and relax cause we're heading straight for the black hole.
What's up, Alpha?
Hey, look at us.
Loving the aesthetics.
Well, you know, I do my best. It is what I'm known for.
Yeah.
That and crying on the internet.
Looking good. Really good on the internet. I'm liking that subtitle. If you're, I keep doing this thing of like, if you're listening to this in the future, and I'm like, hang on, wait, it won't be the future for you. It'll be the future for us. I forget that I said that. It'll be your present, but we're in your past right now. And you're in our future. If you're listening to this whenever, because obviously it has to be sometime. Good. Hi.
Hey. Good on ya.
Mama on because she's really cool, but also what I'm doing with this podcast. That's where I'll start.
Yeah.
The general gist is I'm just grabbing people that are friends or at least close acquaintances that are doing something that I think is inspiring, that has some spiritual component to it, some business component to it, or some creative component to it, or in your case, a little bit of all of the above. Yeah. And, you know, it's called Love is a Virus, and it's really about like spreading better shit, spreading consciousness, spreading love, spreading awakening, spreading evolution.
Yeah.
And that's it. I haven't pre-framed this with Alpha. We're just going to do what we do because, you know, we're good like that.
We love to talk shit.
Yeah. And
good shit.
You have been coming up the last couple of days just because I've been feeling into the push-pull of people who can hold multiple contradicting views, you know, which you're one of the small handful of people I know that I think do that well, you know, this kind of integral thing. And also I'm really feeling into the kind of tension between business and art at the moment as well. So that's why I kind of hit you up right now.
Yeah.
Like anything we get into is cool with me.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So how are you?
Mate, I'm good. I'm feeling really great. Like, to be honest, this, you know, the quarantine situation is not that different for me. I'm not really a very big social butterfly. I mainly stay at home a lot. My work is primarily online like yours. I see clients online. I run online programs. And if I'm not at home, then I'm in the studio. So that's a bit of a bummer that I can't get in the studio. But I went through the initial shock period and, you know, like some other things happened at the same time and I couldn't get my partner over here. So it was a bit of a downer initially. And then like the shock of like, really, we're not going to be able to travel overseas for like 6 months? Are you kidding me? Like that was my initial like, are you fucking kidding me? And then, you know, like anything you digest and then you just kind of sit with what is and you make the best of it. Well, you know, if you're smart, you make the best of it. Otherwise you don't. But I feel like I've been super creative and I feel like I'm in the space of, all these ideas are possible now without the stress of having to be, it's like, it feels like a buffer time for me where I can catch up on shit.
Wicked. What are you working on?
So many things. Oh my God. So one of the first things I did when I realized that this was going to be a very interesting time was I assembled a group of some of the music artists, the female music artists in my field that I think have a lot of potential that give me goosebumps when I listen to them. And I've tried this before, but it wasn't quite the right formation, but we've got a collective at the moment. There's 8 of us, all women, like music that moves. And so there's a record label forming called God Queen, which I'm super fucking excited about. So we're collaborating on a song together and then we're going to schedule a release, you know, strategy for everyone to release their stuff and like everyone's energy going toward one person and their release, but creating this real like, you know, Wu-Tang Clan kind of like, you know, yeah, exactly. So that's one of the things that I'm really excited by. Another offering that's been birthed, which kind of happened accidentally, but now it's like the most exciting thing, is these song birthing sessions that really I'm just offering for primarily coaches, leaders in our field who already know what the essence of their message is, but want to immortalize that in song and art and music. So it's been fucking beautiful to just capture when someone speaks without filter, it's for me, it's the most beautiful and poetic thing that they could ever say. And so I mine that gold, and then I work with them. We turn that into a song, and there's like all these tears and vulnerability, and it's a beautiful thing. And then I've been like getting my production chops on, like put it in GarageBand and produce it into a little song and give it to them. Like, it's been so fun. So that's another thing I've been doing. Making heaps of art, and my Patreon has been really fun as another outlet for me, just to get more close connection with my fans, and another form of income as well. So just looking at different forms of income, because I'm not doing any live gigs or touring at the moment. So my mind has just been looking at, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit from here and a little bit from here and a little bit from here. And then let's see where that leads after this situation changes into its next phase. But that's what's coming to mind at the moment. There's so many other things, but I mean, I could fucking talk forever. So what's the next question?
I don't know what the next question is. I had this thing of like, I've been on like, I don't know, fucking hundreds of podcasts, and I've been gonna do a podcast for like, since there was podcasts, since like I fucking heard of them like 7 years ago,
Yeah.
And somehow I never got around to it. This is something I did since I made music, right? Since I was like 19 and I rapped, I would make little albums on paper. Like, I'd come up with a concept, I'd draw a little box, I'd even sketch a rough visual, then I'd come up with sort of track title. It was always concept down, it was always how I would create, okay, it's gonna be a space pirate rap album, okay, and it'll have some cool piratey rap puns for the names of the songs. And then I know who'd be a good guest, this guy. I could get this guy to make me a beat. And I'd kind of build the whole thing in my mind. And I'd kind of be done, like the actual making of the thing was always like, I kind of feel like I've made it already now. Like it's been birthed on like,
it's completely done here.
Yeah. So I've been doing that with podcasts for years. I'd be bored somewhere at the airport, and I'd be like, who could be on it? This person, this person, this person. Okay, the concept will be this. Okay, da, 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 da. So this one, it's for me, I'll segue this into something relevant, so it's not just me ranting. For me, I'm really getting a lot deeper into my creative process in the last, especially this year, but it's something I started kind of invoking maybe about 18 months ago, right? I turned 40, I was getting these visions in my Joe Dispenza meditations of me doing crazy performance rituals. And so I started trying to knock on the door, and I spoke to you about that and a few other people that hold a representation of creativity for me. And one of the little hacks that has helped me get into my, and it's funny because I've always been creative. It's not like I realize it's not like I haven't been creative in the last 10 years. I've been super creative, but in more purely artistic projects, And one of the things that helps me is kind of getting the drop on myself. There's little tricks that I do, like, and I felt like when I would be writing a book, I'll sort of write, like, I've written these little short books. Those who don't know, I've got 5 books. They're on Amazon. You should check them out. Conscious Hustle might be a good starting point. But what I do is I'm a really good starter and a pretty average maintainer and a fucking horrendous finisher,
Yeah.
It's like premature ejaculation energy in the crease. Like, yeah. Oh, I don't know about this anymore,
Totally.
Like that. And so one of the things that I like to do is do little tricks, like, okay, I'm all in for this idea. I've committed to this idea, but it's secretly okay if the whole idea completely fucking changes by the time we get anywhere.
Yes.
Which somehow gives me fresh juice. So it's like I've almost done the first creative stage, and then I get bored. And then I kind of drift off for a week, and then I come back and I'm like, what if it wasn't called that? What if it was called this? And then somehow 85% of what I've made is still relevant. That song or whatever gets pushed out. So it's happened, I was doing an album, right? And then the coronavirus thing hits and big opportunities. I'm like, fuck it, I'll do a whole like fucking going viral thing. It's going to be called that. And I was like, going viral is a bit limited for, okay, it's going to be called Bat Soup, but it's not going to be, it's going to be a mixtape. And then I started writing it. It's like, mixtape, there's all these copyright issues. It's going to suck when I get my clips. It's going to be an EP. It's going to be the Bat Soup EP. And I almost finished that EP, and I'm like, fuck. It's actually not called Bat Soup. It's actually called Black Dragon.
Mm.
There's a song on there called Black Dragon, which has more archetypal weight than everything else. And like, this is the central idea. This is the central thing. And it's almost like I get this idea and I'm wrestling with it and I'm kind of spiraling it down. And sometimes it's really graceful. And sometimes I'm literally trying to beat parts of it in submission. Other times I'm more trying to surrender and wait.
Yeah.
But there is a definite sense of bringing it down into earth.
Yeah.
And it's like permission to like totally lie to myself or create little false starts. Or like when I'd be writing a book, I do these weird things where I've written a third of the book and now I'm bored. So what I'm going to start doing is start the whole thing again on a fresh page. Ooh, fresh white paper. I'm so enthused.
Yeah.
And then I notice I start sampling the stuff I've already written. And it's like, ooh, I started the book again today on day 3, but I'm already up to 15,000 words. It's like, yeah, because you're actually, what you've done is rewriting the thing you already wrote. All these weird fucking things that I do.
Yes.
But they work.
I feel you.
Maybe I'd love to hear about, because I feel like particularly in music, you're a lot further down the path of how in touch you are. You know, you've been on the music thing solidly for a long time. I'd love to hear how you create.
I mean, like that so many ways is the answer to that. There's not just one way, but I do have a few things that I've kind of learned over the years. What I've noticed, and I've spoken about this a few times on, you know, varying places on social media, live streams or whatever, but I found this kind of, I guess, system for creating art that for me feels like the perfect balance of these 3 elements. And I guess like the way I conceptualize it is there are some people who are extremely tapped in up here, you know, like these upper chakras. And so they tend to catch ideas really quickly. They tend, like I'm one of those people in some ways. I speak really quickly and I get very excited. The energy is very excitable and it's like, and then this, and then this, and then you can see patterns and this could fit here. And this is like very puzzle piecey, which is awesome. But what I notice is when you create from that space, a lot of people will miss it because sometimes the energy is like too fast for them. And it's a very high frequency as well. And so some people kind of can't resonate with that or can't click in because they might not be operating at that frequency. So then there's another way of creating, which I feel like is coming from the bottom, which is like the dense, it's like the emotional stuff. It's a lot of pain. It's like, it comes through like the earth, fucking pain body stuff. It's very emotional. It's a lot of tears. And usually everyone resonates with that stuff because we all feel emotion, right? And so you hear these artists like Amy Winehouse, you know, or maybe like Nina Simone, you know, like they're tapped into fucking collective pain body and all their stuff comes out and you just cry when you listen to it. Or blues singers, right? It's so rough and it's just pure fucking emotion and it's not very polished at all, right? So you've got from here and you got from there. Both are beautiful and valid, but what I like to do is, for me, I put it in the heart and that's where the alchemy happens. So the process of refinement and editing is where you show your love and your care for the actual artwork itself. The devotion comes in. So you ask, okay, does it need more up here or does it need more down there? Like, you know, and that's where your process of refinement comes in. And some people, they just want to run off excitement. So it's like, no, this is good. Boom, put it out there. But people don't connect to it because they don't feel it, you know, or some people do and some people don't. Similarly, if you just go on the raw, pure emotion, it's like sometimes that's too indulgent, almost emotionally indulgent. And it's like, why are you fucking crying on the internet again? You know, I'm guilty of that a lot of times. Again, what the hell, you know, or just purely emotionally charged. So when you want to create actual finished pieces of work that need your love, like these are creations, these are your babies, and they do deserve, for me anyway, a time of refinement. And that's where I feel that happens, is in the heart. It's like the bridge between up here and down there, and it can alchemize it and it can turn it into something that is full of love and care, and then you put it out from that space. So that tends to be the process that I aspire to. Not everything always goes through that process, as you know. Sometimes I'm just like, fucking put it out there. But the things that work really well usually happen very quickly, but go through that process.
Love it. That's really beautiful. I think for me, it's very tantric, you know, it's very like, if we do the kind of mystery school tantric frame of like, you know, consciousness being the masculine and matter and vibration being the feminine, it's kind of like, you know, some people, like when I watch like singer-songwriter documentaries, it's like, I just had this tune in my head. And I'm like, that's been happening to me for the first time in my life, you know?
Yes, that's so exciting.
So it's more of a vibration. It's a vibration came in, and because I'm much more developed on the maps, models, and mind creativity level, I'll often be able to take that vibration. Oh, that could be the chorus for the such and such song, because there's infinite concepts for me. You know, I've got like that thing I would do where I'd make up albums when I was a kid. I could move so much faster conceptually than I could like vibrationally. You know, like it's like, cool. Do you have 12 choruses? It's like, no, I just thought of them. It's space pirates. That's the whole thing.
Duh.
Yeah. You know, it's very entrepreneurial, and as my entrepreneur is maturing, it's like, I was talking to you just before we got on of like learning to honor the things that have seemed like your flaws. You never finish anything. Oh, you're on this, then you're on that. It's like, yeah, that's a superpower as well as it can be very frustrating when you're trying to follow through and your mind won't fucking do it.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurially, it's like, if I had backed myself or come from an environment where this was a thing people did, I'd have an idea, build a team, finance the thing, and off they would go and they'd build the thing. And what would I be doing? Next idea. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's taken me 20 years to almost, I feel like I've almost initiated myself into being a real entrepreneur in terms of like, oh, no, I don't build the thing. I download the idea, I assemble the team and the resources, and I task them, and away they go. And what do? Then I take a weekend off, and then I do it again. And it's like, you know, instead of like Spiral Institute, for example, it's taken sort of 7 or 8 years to get to where it is. Yeah. And there's this part of me, it's like, yeah, but the next one that I build, it's going to take 6 months. Yeah. You know, and it's like, it's that downloading from above through the thing, but I've been deliberately, painstakingly working with vibrating up from the ground, which is really never been my natural thing.
But it's the same with creativity, right? You would feel that as well. Like you've made one business that was successful through trial and error. And I think part of the reason why you know that the next one is going to take not nearly as long as amount of time is because you've developed the confidence and the trust in yourself. You've shown yourself what you can do already, right? So you have this like fallback of like, I trust my magic, I trust my ability because I've done it once before. A lot of people in their creativity, they have this like, I can't do it because they've never done it before. So it's like they don't have any reference point to show them that they can actually do it.
So many places to jump to, Alpha. What's coming in for me is like, I guess this thing between, maybe like the link between the artist and the mystic, you know, there's something about the comfort with the unknown that I think both of those have. And that's another thing I think we have in common where it's like, yeah, cool, we'll just get on the call and we'll just do the thing. Like, I wonder your thoughts. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about how your spirituality and your art, how do they link, or what do they have in common? Or I know they're very intertwined for you. I'd love to hear a bit about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think one of the reasons why I assembled this collective God Queen is because the artists who I'm pulling together are the artists who are journeying the path of the artist and the path of the mystic as well. Like all of them are spiritual people. They all have gifts. They have psychic gifts. They all like read tarot, astrology babes. Like they're all into it. And the music is also really high quality. And I think that's rare to find when you can find someone who's really tapped in, shamanic, like got all the magic, and also sings fucking really well, writes killer songs. It's like, holy shit, these babes are totally going to make me some money. You know what I mean? Like there's that part of my brain also works like that. And they need support and they need guidance, because I don't think every artist is a mystic. I think a lot of artists are, but not everyone, because, you know, any old person these days, especially, get a microphone, get a setup, get a guitar, like watch some YouTube videos, boom, you're an artist. And everyone has the right to wear that title. But for me, it's very different when you're walking the path of the mystic, and it's like, there's so many like, it's just, okay, where do I even start? Like, firstly, I view each song as it already exists in a realm that I have to tap into. And so I don't see myself as like, I'm writing a song. I feel like I'm channeling a song. And I'll often, like, if I'm stuck with a song, I'll talk to it and I will ask, like, what do you need? How do you need to move through me? Like, how can I best serve you, this artistic creation? It's like, for me, the first step of being a true artist, I mean, this is like what I believe, is like, you fucking have to let go of what you think is good and what you think is bad, because your pursuit of what you think is good is what's going to make you the cheesy motherfucker or the overthought, blah, blah, blah. It's because you're getting in your own way. Like, that pure channel of creation and magic is always going to be better than what you think is good. And you just need to get out of the way and allow that to come through. That's why I've been playing with this song doula kind of title, because it's like, and you know, and in ancient times, midwives and doulas, they all fucking mystics, all of them, they were tapped into that realm. They knew how to communicate with the spirit of the baby and the spirit of the mother and the fucking ancestors and the magic and the herbs and all of that stuff. So for me, like, it's like, you just feel it. Some people, they just have that mystic, and when they sing, you get the goosebumps and it's in your fascia. And it's like, for me, if my hairs stand up and I get the goosebumps, I already know, okay, you're not like just any other artist. I know you have that magic thing. And to cultivate that and to then intentionally start to weave intention and magic into your songs and your music, like, that's what I'm most excited about. So for me, it kind of happened accidentally. And my background is through gospel music. So that's where I started music. It was like, we use music to create atmosphere for people to commune with God and feel the Holy Spirit. It's like, well, I'm still doing that now. I just don't call it Jesus anymore. It's just called fucking magic and ritual and ceremony, but it's the same shit.
Yeah. Love it. It was making me think of, you know, before, so I grew up on rap since my teens, but it was very my little thing, you know, and I wrote poetry before that. You know, literally as a kid, would be reading like Wordsworth and shit, you know, so the classic poets as a child. And I would write that kind of poetry when I'm like 9 or something. And then I got into rap at maybe 13, 14. And once I got past the bitches gangster thing, which didn't really, you know, privately I couldn't really engage with it anyway. I sort of found my way into this writing really weird stuff. It was very much me writing wizard shit, you know?
Yes.
And then I found the rap scene and got involved with that. And it was like, oh, like, it has to be battle stuff, and it's got to involve stories about you getting laid. And like, I took on the persona, which I learned from the collective. Before I had, so the shit that I'm making now is much more attuned to like what I was writing when I was sort of 16 or 17. I would write these cool wizardy little fucking poems about like ancestors coming back from the grave or whatever, you know. I was like, cool, it's like a ghost story rap, you know?
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's taken my whole life of deconditioning and building a certain level of self-confidence and integration to be like, hey, little boy, you can mix wizard shit with rap shit, with whatever the fuck you want. It's totally okay, you know?
Yeah.
And weirdly, it seems like the world is totally ready for that. And it's very hard for me to tell if that's just the timing of the external reality, or if I had believed that the whole time, maybe the world would have been ready for it.
I have this same thought so much. It's like, we always think, oh, the world's not ready for me yet because I'm so special. Like, this is one of the wounds that all artists carry. It's the wound of significance and othering self. It's like, I'm not like anybody else. You can't put me in a genre, and my genre doesn't even exist. You know, the amount of fucking bios I've written for artists and press releases, I'm just like, okay, just tell me 3 artists that you're similar to. Can't find any. I've none. And it's just like, it's hilarious because we so want to be special and different, and it's cute. It's so cute. But actually, like, the world just fucking feels what's good. That's the thing. As much as you want to get into marketing and PR and whatever, a good song is a good song. People will feel it. And that's why you see these stories of artists blowing up with one song, like Tones and I, you know, she's got that Dance Monkey dance. So I don't know if you know. Okay, so I became aware of her a couple of years ago. I was at Splendor in the Grass. I was in Byron, and she was busking, and she had this busking rig. She just looked like, to be honest, like a Darrow, like full homeless get up. And she was just with her busking rig with the battery and a blah, 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 and her keyboard. I didn't think her songs were that great, but she had a very unique voice. And I was like, okay, cool. That's someone to take note of. Fast forward to end of last year, she dropped a song called Dance Monkey, and it exploded like massively. It's gone fucking platinum so many times. Like, it's just crazy, right? And if you look at her from a marketing perspective, the story that artists want to tell themselves is that, oh, record companies or the music industry only want to sign you if you're young and hot and you're this and you're that. It's bullshit. they will sign you if you have a fucking good song that they can make money off. That's what they care about. And she had this one song that just went bananas. It triggered something in the collective psyche that just went, everybody loves this song. And so she's massive now, you know, and it's like, I don't know. I think like the most important thing that we can focus on is just like be a slave and totally submit to the creations, like to the artworks themselves. And that doesn't mean like bash the shit out of them until they're lifeless, but like really serve them, you know?
Yeah. I love the what do you need piece. I had definitely got some upgrade, like things are flowing really well for me now creatively. And I re-listened to Big Magic not long ago, and it just like I listened to it ages ago when I wasn't creating much, you know. So to listen to it when I was starting to put a little bit of time in, and that thing you said about kind of asking what it needs, and I loved all the different people she's talked to. I'm like interviewing Tom Waits about how he creates, you know. I'm like, fucking so cool, you know. Like there's a bit in there about if there's one song on the album that's being rebellious, he'll clear the room and everyone get out. Okay, you listen. All of us are going for a ride. There's a whole family. We're all getting on this train. And you can come or you can not come, but I'm telling you, this train is ready to leave, and we're leaving without you if you don't want to come, you know? And it's and then sometimes that song will be like, okay, and it'll come out. And other times it's like, well, I don't care. And the album, you know, the train of the album leaves the station.
That's it. And some songs will get left behind, and that's okay. Yeah. It's partly training yourself because it's all ego, right? And I think this is the thing, because we're on the path of, you know, the spiritual path. So we're constantly finding all of the reflections of our ego masking as different things. So masking as genius, masking as, you know, care, masking as this, masking as that. And it's just another layer of ego popping up for you to see, oh, okay, fuck, that's another limitation. That's another limitation. But like being precious about songs because you think, no, this is going to be, it's going to be so good. It's got to make the album. If I just fucking shave this off, I just add this, it's like, no, maybe that song, its life was just meant to live, you know, for that period of time, and that's it. And you performed it once and it didn't really go off, and that's it. Like, let it die, let it go. It's okay.
Yeah. I wrote a track. The first thing I wrote was called The Goddess Delusion, which you know.
Oh, yes.
And for me, like, it's cool. I'm happy with it now for what it is from a distance, but it was almost like the cleaning out of the dirty water in the pipe, you know?
Yes.
Because what I did was revisit how I used to write, like nearly 20, you know, 10 plus, almost 15 years ago. You know, I had a developed style that was very storytelling, intricate punchlines, multi-syllables and humorous images, you know, with a chorus that sort of sums up the theme, you know? So it's like a very developed one style that I developed well, you know?
Yeah.
And so of course that's the first thing I wrote coming back to doing music, is that just about subject matter that is more true to my current life, which is, in this case, I was in Bali, so I was taking this out of spiritual shit, you know?
Yeah.
And then I didn't really know what to do with that song because, one, I had this feeling that a lot of people might not like it, but two, it's not really the vibration that I wanted to put a lot of energy into. I'm going to now promote that all over the place. It's like, well, it's kind of a throwaway joke, which I'm glad that I did because I'm happy with the level I did it to. But it was almost like getting the pipe empty, and this thing that's coming through now, which is nearly, you know, it's written and we're starting to produce. It's like, it's much more soul, transpersonal, less logical. Like some of the things I'm like, it's a strange idea that just came out of this dream, or about this phrase that I like the feeling of. And it's like, it's something I remember reading ages ago in a relationship book. Was like, okay, if you haven't been in a relationship for a long time, when you go back to the relationship, you will be the relationship age you were when your last relationship ended. So let's say
that's interesting.
So let's say you didn't date from 25 to 35, right? You've been single for 10 years, you start dating someone, you're essentially going to be showing up as your 25-year-old self in relationship, because that's how mature your partner energy was, right?
True, yeah. Okay.
And you're going to have the patience, and so is the other person, to mature that version of you, because the last time you were practicing these things, you were 25. I really had to do that with the music. It's like, fuck, I have to kind of connect into this sort of 24, 25-year-old version of me who's kind of got a lot to prove and has these certain habits, because that's who's holding the pen still inside of mine. psyche.
that.
And that's what made it so slow. I was like, but I don't want to feel like that guy. Like, I've progressed a very long way since him.
Yeah.
And it's been a building, a gentle, like, okay, I know that you're really keen. Everyone knows that you're really good, the best. In fact, okay, I get it. You're better than everyone at everything ever, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very important for you to get that across in every line you ever write. I see that. I'm kind of wanting to do something a bit different, but let's dance together. And I really had to excavate this dude and kind of make friends with him and sort of recognize, okay, he was pretty wounded, you know, but he could rhyme good because he spent a lot of time doing that. So all those networks were all mixed together, and real fucking interesting process.
Yeah. 3 things come to mind, and I don't know where to start, but like I want to talk to all of them. The first one is like, it's kind of even worse when you approach something new, well, not new, when you return to something after a long time away, because your tastes have evolved so far. So you have this advanced sense of what's good and what's shit, but your ability is still really low. So you're facing like, oh, I'm so crap, but I know I'm so crap. You don't even have the beauty of being delusional about things because you know what's good and what's bad, you know. And that's like it's a funny thing when I'm teaching people to sing, or when I used to do a lot of vocal coaching. It's like when people develop, suddenly their ears click on and they can start hearing when they're out of tune and when they're in tune, and they're like, oh, this is the worst, because you're constantly having to be faced with how not good you are, but you know what you're capable of. And then it's like meeting that gap. So like that's the one thing that came to mind. The second thing is, I also think that it's really possible to leverage the skill set that you have in other areas and use that and very quickly advance, especially when you're getting into flow states and you're borrowing, you know, the expertise that you have and using that to excel very fast. So that's the second thing that came to mind. And then the third thing that came to mind is coming back to the path of the artist, who is also the mystic, or anyone that is doing some kind of spiritual evolutionary work. What I see a lot happen is they're more interested and sometimes to a fault, like obsessed with all of the self-realization that comes from creating instead of just fucking doing it, you know. And so it's like you sing one line and some emotion comes up, and then you go into the rabbit hole of, because when I was 3 and then this happened and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sing your fucking song, you know. So sometimes people get stalled on the evolutionary path, the inner evolutionary path, as opposed to just like creating because it's there and it's fun and it's beautiful and you can make things. That's my 3 things.
Love the 3 things. The second one is really relevant to me. Like there's been now that the kind of artist is starting to kind of feel a bit of confidence and some mobility, you can do different things, you know. I'm benefiting a lot from the fact that my entrepreneur is quite developed. And the entrepreneur knows certain things, like there's such a standard called good enough, you know. And it's a very thing that helped me, which is, you know, for anyone listening to this, the kind of stuff that I teach a lot of, you know. I think the perfectionism disease, which is really just a way of protecting yourself from ever doing anything, basically, and taking any risks. You know, I've beaten that through business to a level that I never really did in my sort of young music career, because I've had the opportunity to execute and complete so many things, leave some things dead by the wayside, move on, next thing, that was fucking hit, that worked, we sold 100 grand of that, awesome. That thing never really kicked off, doesn't matter. Because there's something more, it's almost like the entrepreneur has a ruthlessness for me that my artist didn't, and I thought was very unartistic. But now my artist growing up, I see he's the same. It's like, this one ain't going to make it. We're going to leave this child behind for the good of the rest of the album, kind of thing.
Leave him on the mountaintop for the vultures.
Totally. You know, I was listening and I thought that was a core part of this message, but you know what? We don't fucking need a story about whatever it is. That can be over. And maybe a lot's been happening for me there's an archive folder where it's like, you know, I feel confident to trim that fat now because we'll put it in the archive box. He can be recycled later on.
Yeah.
It's got something, you know?
Yes.
But maybe I'll throw it to you. You know, how is your journey between the artist and the entrepreneur? How do they relate to each other for you?
How do they relate for me? Well,
or is there a tension between them? But let's start there. Do you find a tension between those 2 parts?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that they're not best friends. I can feel when I'm heavily in my entrepreneur and when I'm heavily in my artist, and the different patterns and emotions that come up related to them. Like when I'm in my entrepreneur, I tend to be very fiery. That tends to be the energy. And it's like this, I don't give a fuck what you think, and be quite inflammatory online and have opinions and very certain about what I'm doing, and just this is fucking what I'm doing and I'm backing it. And this is what I charge and blah, 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 you know? And so there's not a lot of vulnerability there in some areas, because the certainty is what gives me the blinders that I need to just stay focused on what it is I'm doing, which is I need to fucking make money, right? And I don't care how I do it, this is how I'm doing it. So that's one archetype that, you know, like I have an interesting relationship with, because I don't like to be in that all the time. And it doesn't serve anyone if I'm in that all the time. As soon as I go into my artist, just this whole wave of vulnerability comes over me, and all of a sudden I'm so sensitive, and anything anyone says about me is like, so like, you know, and I'm constantly writing poetry all the time, and I'm, you know, going for a drive and I have to pull over on the side of the highway because it's like this thing wants to come through me. So, and when I'm in the artist, I don't give a fuck about money. I don't care about, I don't want it. I don't need it. The only value that it has is that I can use it to make more art, you know, and it's very low on my priorities list. I'll be homeless. And as long as I have a way of creating, I'm happy. And so, you know, like they're very different energies to hold at the same time. Right now, I actually feel like I'm in quite a good place with my artist and my entrepreneur. And I think there's something about this time, and maybe just where I'm at, where it makes sense for the first time. Like a lot of my music artist friends, they're having to go on Centrelink and get the JobKeeper stuff and blah, blah, so that they have recurring income, because most of them did live gigs. That's where their money came from. So no festivals, no venues, they have zero income. Whereas for me, I'd already transitioned out of that. I wasn't even making much money from live gigs anymore. Really, it was more online programs and one-on-one coaching work. So for me, I knew, well, that's the thing that I know how to do, that it was just a matter of honoring the authentic place that I'm at right now, like where my values are and what I really fucking believe in, and making an offering that suited that. And also my values in terms of, well, if people can't afford things right now because they're going through a struggle, well, who are the people that can afford it? And can I make something that they would want? So that's kind of where my head went. Hence these song birthing sessions, because I saw a lot of coaches were like, nah, nothing's changed for me. Still fucking making money, still being a leader, still preaching my message, still got clients. If anything, more clients are coming to me because I'm holding the certainty and I look like I know what I'm doing. And I saw that, and I had a bit of an existential crisis for a little bit, because I was like, fuck, where do I sit with this? Like, where do I position myself? And so in the end, I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is create two different offerings. One is for people who have the money and who need art. And one thing I love about this time with quarantine is everyone is valuing art more. Because you're stuck in your fucking house, you can't do anything. You need art and entertainment and music.
Yeah.
You need it. So it bumps up on your values list. So me speaking to it, it's like, oh, actually, yes, I do want that. I need that, because you need that escapism, you need that entertainment. So that was one thing that I did with the song birthing sessions. And the other thing, which is about to launch in a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, is an emerging leadership program. But it's for, you know, primarily women, but not exclusive to women, who want to step out as leaders, who feel like they're called to leadership, but they're not in that place yet where they're certain. They're still like finding, well, what are my values? Where are my ethics? And, you know, what are my skills, blah, blah, blah. And the way that they learn leadership is by actually facilitating in the areas that they're already strong in. So the curriculum itself is shaped and formed by whoever the participants are. It's like, all right, cool. You write a list in your application form of what your skills are, what your gifts are, what your fucking strengths are, blah, 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 what your trainings are. What are the areas that you're weak in? And then we create the curriculum based on that. And that's like a low priced offering. And you have the opportunity to make money by delivering as well. So when you facilitate your bit on, let's say you're really good at embodiment, people come to your part, then they can tip you and pay you. So there's a way for you to make money, and there's a way for you to also be supported and held and to grow. And for me, that felt more ethical and more aligned to my values, and not just this kind of top-down method of, I know everything, let me teach you everything I know, which is very like pyramid, you know, hierarchy. For me, I'm moving away from that and more into this, I guess, Aquarian model of like, no, I don't fucking know any better than you. I know better than you in some areas, but you know better than me in some areas, so let me learn from you as well. And I'm just going to hold the container and initiate the idea and hold the energy of it, but give people an opportunity to step into their fucking genius and learn from one another. And I want to get paid too. So they're the two things that I've been playing with at the moment.
Super cool. What's twigging for me is this total. I'm going vague because I'm kind of going about 7 lateral jumps right now. You know?
Yeah, all the tabs are open. It's like a Wikipedia. You like open the next tab.
Oh, you're going to go over there. Okay, right. You know, let's go lizard people. You know, let's go out there.
Oh, fuck yes. I'm so dying to go here.
Well, you know, I saw a Facebook share you did. It was yesterday. My time sense is so bizarre right now as well. It's like, okay, hours, they're all the same. But, and it was something that was really doing something that this is what I named at the beginning, right? This ability to hold, you know, what we would call in spiral dynamics, you know, an integral level of where we're like, okay, this reality, but also this other reality that contradicts that reality, both have elements of truth and both have elements of flaws to them. And it's interesting the positions that people like you and I are in. Like, you know, for me, I'm sitting across entrepreneur, spiritual dude with maybe artist creeping back into my public persona gradually, but those first two are very strongly held by me, and they're quite contradictory for a lot of people, which then means my networks range from like very independent, almost, I wouldn't say fully like right wing, but more leaning, you know, self-autonomy, you create your reality, you're responsible entrepreneur mentality, which are very like, you know, don't indulge too much fluff.
It's very capitalistic,
capitalistic, you know, level 5 in spiral dynamics or orange meme, like opportunistic, independent, get yours, you know, and everyone gets what they deserve basically based on their merits, you know. And then the other end, which would be more my kind of like Byron, Bali, California, healer, artist.
One love.
One love, and also equal rights, and also, you know, strong distrust of authority, which is an interesting counterpoint that I'm noticing a lot at the moment. And the world isn't fair, and we should make it more fair, and, you know, more we than me kind of end. So in spiral dynamics, at the very least, the orange meme and the green meme, for those of you who are listening who know anything about that, those are very present in my world. And there's a much rarer handful of people who can bounce between contradictory viewpoints. And that's one place I always feel, it's almost like, not a safety is a funny word, because it's not like I feel unsafe, but I feel a confidence in my ability to communicate with you, because I know you're holding that too. And I see people like Shaney, you know, a few people I'm seeing right now out of our kind of other leaders in our overlapping worlds of spiritual business and so on, that there's only a small handful who can hold, yes, some science is real and accurate, and yes, some of those kind of stories out there might also have some accuracy, but let's not get carried away by either one. And I just want to just open that can of worms with you. Like, what are you seeing amongst your kind of different peer groups right now that is interesting or curious or challenging?
Well, I guess it's an interesting question, because I see a lot of people coming at it from this place of excitement, like, yes, you know, the economy is going to finally topple, this capitalistic patriarchal structure is finally going to like crack, and then the new era is going to come to birth, and finally Tom Hanks is going to get put in prison for eating babies. You know, it's like there's a lot of excitement, energy. So there's that. I mean, they're two separate demographics. One are the conspiracy theorists who seem to think that this whole thing is a cover up for the child sex trafficking ring to topple and come down, and something like that, from what I can gather. And then, you know, there are people that are very close to us who we perceive as like very like fucking logical and rational people who strongly believe in these theories. So, you know, it's quite fascinating. And And then there are also like the more activist-y, like I'll call them inner west, you know, Newtown peeps. And I don't know where that is in Melbourne, but it's maybe Brunswick, where it's like, you know, young artsy people who are like, yeah, eat the rich, you know, there shouldn't be any billionaires in the world. And finally, and fucking it's going to topple.
There's one that I love. I'll keep going in a sec, but I just want to throw this in. And it's like, a billionaire is like a dragon laying on a bed of treasure. And I'm like, that sounds amazing.
Wow, I have not seen that. I need to see the image that goes with it.
It got thrown out at Elon Musk. It's like, basically, even the existence of a billionaire is just a terrible thing. And basically, he's like a hideous dragon hoarding all of the resources. And I'm just like, that is not discouraging my enjoyment of the idea of being a billionaire.
Yeah.
But please continue.
Well, what I love about it is there's so many points of view in my field that I have access to. You know, it's because my dad is he's a Christian pastor, right? So there's that point of view, which is, since I was a kid, he's been talking about the end of days and Revelations and the mark of the beast, and you know, everyone's going to eventually get microchips, and if you say no, then you'll be, you know, condemned to jail or whatever, but then the rapture will happen and Jesus will take up all the Christians, and then the second coming of Christ. So this stuff happening, I'm just like, could probably be that, you know, it's like, maybe it is. And I can imagine that if you hold that point of view, you would be feeling pretty fucking worried at the moment, like, shit, is it all going to come crashing down? Like, has the rapture already happened and I didn't get chosen? Like, will I get, you know, like,
pick me up.
Yeah, like, come on. So there's that point of view, and then there's my mum, who works in essentially like the public healthcare system. So she's management in the education department for nursing and midwifery. So she's like right up in the corona's fucking face, as in she's making new wards to blah, blah, blah. So it's, you know, when people were saying coronavirus is a hoax, it's not real, I'm like, you fucking idiots. Like, it's a fucking virus. You can get it. And if you get it and you get a bad case of it, you can die, or you might get really sick and go to hospital, because that's a reality that I have access to. So because I have access to all these realities, for me, it's like, and because I love these people and I see their sentience and I see how intelligent they are, and I'm like, well, maybe it's all true to a degree. Like, why could it not, like, why does only one thing have to be true, you know? And for me, it's just like, I don't know, like, I don't feel like I feel any safer when I just believe one thing. It doesn't give me any sense of certainty or safety. It just makes me feel like, all right, like, I choose this. I don't know what it is about, but I just feel like, yeah, it could all be true. But I'm one of those crazy people. I'll even entertain the fact that the earth is flat. Like, I'm happy to go there and have a chat about it, you know?
Right. Yeah, I feel like you're a little more, what's the word? Slightly more indulging, because I'm really committed. So one of the things I grew up on, I was quite into magic and stuff, and got into NLP early, but also there was a form of magic called chaos magic, which was really the postmodern remix of magic, right? And it came out in the 80s in Britain, very rebellious. And so instead of like, you should be like a Wiccan, or you should be like, you know, in the Golden Dawn and do the complex ceremonies, or you should be a voodoo priestess. It's like, you can remix all of this shit together and take the parts you want, and it's all good. You know, you can do a ritual with like characters from Star Trek as the gods and goddesses if you want. It will still fucking work, you know?
Yes.
And it was the first taste of like integral thinking that I really got. So one of the practices chaos magic would tell you to do is like get 2 books or 2 magazines that have the opposite premise, and read a bit of one and then read a bit of the other. So maybe like guns and ammo, and like a sustainability vegan magazine, activist magazine, and read a paragraph of one and like feel it and believe it, and then read a paragraph of the other and feel it, and practice these contradictory realities, and basically get a collapse of, Robert Anton Wilson calls it being model agnostic, you know, like no one model should be allowed to dominate you. They're all just kind of little hats you can try on. So I conceptually try to live by that. Yeah. But I also, I don't know if it's to protect my sensitivity or just I don't like getting my time wasted. I can be quite intolerant of like what I consider. I'm like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, I think that maybe where my discernment comes in is like, I still come across like thoughts and beliefs and philosophies and theories that I scoff over. I'm like, that's ridiculous. It still happens. Yeah. But at the same time, I like, there's a certain humility, and I know some people are like anti-humility, but for me, like there's a certain
anti-humility.
Well, Leah's very anti-humility. She thinks it's like humble. The word humble is stricken from her dictionary. She doesn't like it. You know, she's
Shout out to Leah Steele, ladies and gentlemen.
Shout out to Leah Steele. So, you know, like for me, I think there's a beauty in the humility of recognizing there's so much shit that you don't know. Like, and you don't know if you don't know. So because you don't know if you don't know, how the fuck can you be certain about anything other than what your present time experience is? So for me, like, I can back an opinion if I have it in this current moment, knowing that I might come across a new piece of information that totally blows that opinion like out of the water, and it turns out I was wrong. And like, I think where a lot of people get stuck is, you know, being right is surviving, being wrong is death. So therefore, like, they cling to this sense of like, no, this is true, and I don't even want to potentially find out any information that would make me wrong, because wrong equals death, you know. Whereas for me, right, I'm more like, I'm probably going to find out that I didn't know all the facts next week, and then I'll have to change my mind.
Do you think that there is a correlation between those of us that do a lot of consistent like ego death and self-deconstruction are maybe a little more open to this?
Possibly. Like, yes and no. Like, I think that, you know, doing the spiral, emotional clearing, or any kind of like self-reflective work, if you're doing it right, then definitely that is the goal, right? For me, like, and people have different goals in their spirituality. Like for me, I do spiritual work because I believe that the being is separate to what they're being, if that makes sense. You know, what we are being is performative. It's like, oh, I'm this character, I'm this identity, I'm this, that's made up of conditioning and blah, blah, blah. Some of that is the mind and some of that is whatever. And so for me, like, my goal is to really come to understand that I am not the things that I'm being. I'm something beyond that. And I may never get a full embodied, you know, experience of that, but that's what I'm looking for. So everything other than that is just like, if I'm a fucking pinprick of consciousness looking out into this projected reality, depending on where I stand or where I position myself, it's going to look completely different. And that's like a framework that I personally hold. But I think it doesn't matter how much personal work you do, unless you get that fundamental framework, then you're always going to think your subjective reality is true and it's real and it's right and it is what it is. And for me, I think maybe I'm just a little bit less attached to that, because I feel like, no, I'm a fucking spiritual being, which is the fucking source point of consciousness, like that doesn't even have a name or a fucking body. It's or whatever.
The vibratory field, the nothing, the whatever, that level. Yeah, which is interesting, you know, which is one thing I haven't been able to figure out exactly, is like why a lot of the like ayahuasca and psychedelics crew are so fucking paranoid and crazy, you know, because they, by my logic, should be clocking up quite a lot of non-dual experiences and ego dissolution experiences. But they also seem to be the most susceptible to like conspiracy narratives.
Totally. Well, I have a theory for that. It's like kind of twofold. One is the crazy path. The other one is probably a little bit more centered. So I'll go with the centered one. So you know how you always talk about, in your words, it's constraint removal,
yes,
and
skill development versus constraint removal.
Yeah. So, because I have a background in Scientology, that's where I kind of came into like this way of thinking. And L. Ron Hubbard talks about, he's got like two bridges essentially. One is training and one is processing. So processing is the shit where you get your shit off, right? So I would say ayahuasca, whatever, that's a form of processing, right? Because it's like, it's a process where you have some experience and it changes you, alchemizes you, whatever. And then the other side, the training, is what gives you the framework to understand what your reality is, to understand why things work the way they do. And it gives you kind of like this level of understanding, which gives you a sense of certainty. And so if people don't have any kind of frameworks, then they're susceptible, because you've just removed all of this conditioning. You're susceptible to frequencies, you're susceptible to ideas, to beliefs and whatever. And so if you get an idea or a belief that makes you feel certain, or that gives you a sense of anchoring, of course you're going to adopt that. So it's like whoever gets in there first, that's kind of what you're going to cling to. So that's like the rational, sane thing that I can think of when it comes to ayahuasca people really believing in conspiracy theories. I also have like, okay, because we can talk about past lives, because you were talking about reptilians, though I want to bring it back like way early on. You said, let's go to reptilians. And I thought, fuck yeah. So I have like a pretty strong access point to past lives. If I go into processing, often I'll go back into past lives. Are they true? Are they not? Who knows? That's not what I want to talk about. But in one past life, I had this fucking journey where reptilians were trying to program us, and it was amazing. It was like this Amazonian fucking tribe that I was living in, all women. And then they impregnated us through the ayahuasca. And then they were like, brought us all into a spaceship, and we all fucking like died. We had to give birth to these reptilian babies. But I think that sometimes people in their timelines, in their spiritual timelines, have like incidents in past lives or whatever other planets that can be really fucking traumatizing. And it's out there to say this, but it's something that I entertain. So when they have experiences on planet Earth that open up that timeline, it like triggers an old timeline for them. That's why, like with this current reality, you've got people who think it's all bullshit, it's a hoax, people into conspiracies, because I think in their own personal spiritual timeline, they've lived things like this before.
Nice. That's cool. I like that. I mean, so what I would categorize it as like soul wounds, you know?
Yes, exactly. Soul wounds.
Soul
yes.
wounds. And also that, you know, we're accessing information that is not necessarily of this dimension, this time, this place.
Yeah.
And overlaying it into this dimension, which then when we look at things multidimensionally, all of those narratives are true. There's, you know.
Exactly. And that's, I think, why you and I can like, you know, can still be friends with so many different people, because it's like, well, reality for me, like reality and truth are completely different things. Reality is agreement. Reality is what, like, you and I agree that this is a fucking podcast. Someone else might call it, it's not a podcast, it's an interview. Well, because for them, they don't share this reality, but you and me, no, this is a fucking podcast. You know, someone else might be like, it's not a podcast, it's a fucking phone conversation, whatever. It's like agreement is what creates reality, whereas truth is completely different, because truth is what is. And so that's it. It's very simple. It's just what is. It's not what you think it is or what someone told you it is, blah, blah, blah. It's truth is what is. Yeah, that's my little tidbit.
That's an interesting one. A piece that it triggered for me in there is triggered me so much.
Triggered your soul wound.
Triggered my soul wound, which reminded me of one of Ken Wilber's models, which I really like, which is basically he categorizes development into three main areas. So there's cleaning up, growing up, and waking up, and they're not the same thing.
Cool,
so
I like that.
Up would be like spiral, Scientology, any deconditioning system, you know. Growing up is maturing the ego. So we're maturing this personality, making it more functional, developing skill sets, you know, interpersonal relating skills or whatever. I can sell stuff, or I can, you know, follow my moral code or what sort of stuff. And then waking up is realizing the oneness stuff. Yeah. And, you know, it's really useful to explain things like, well, how can these gurus be like abusing their students? It's like, because they have woken up. They didn't really grow up at any point. You know, this guy's sitting in a cave from 15 years onwards, pops himself open, and spends a lot of time in oneness. Yes. At what point does he develop sort of healthy psychosexual dynamics and social skills and understanding of fairness and morality? Like that's it. He doesn't get any time in that, actually.
That's why you see some crazy people who've done a lot of ayahuasca trips who are still sex deviants and predators and all sorts of things, you know, like it's because, yeah, like there's this, I agree with that, the three categories. And in Scientology, it's like there's the training, like the training I would say is the growing up, learning things, blah, blah. And then some people, there might be OT8, which is like really high in the Scientology bridge, but I don't know if they've ever had that like popping out of yourself moment. Whereas like for me, like I had those popping out moments when I was a kid, you know, going for a walk around the fucking block, you know, it's like, I don't know if you can give someone that. I don't know if that's something you can teach or give.
Well, I think, you know, I've been going a lot more into some of the Western esoteric and the Western mystery school teachings the last sort of 2 years, which are really good for explaining evolutionary awakening, you know, because there's a model of soul development over time, you know, over various incarnations that the Eastern traditions are really developed for explaining radical awakening. How do you just pop into Buddha consciousness or God consciousness or whatever? Yeah. they don't really do, okay, you've lived for 373 lives and then this happens and then you go through kind of spiritual puberty and then you get to this next level. It's very Western to like do this like
linear
scale.
thing.
Yeah, linear scale, which so the evolutionary awakening journey, if we follow the like Theosophical Society model, which is the kind of a very, it seems to be the most modern synthesis of all the old mystery school teachings. It's the dominant one that I've been tracking. It basically is saying that, like, you know, that we come into this life at various levels of development to start with.
Yes,
so
I agree with that.
You, me, and a third party, our souls may all be at different levels of maturity. So, you know, you have an acid trip when you're 16 and you just pop into like full unity consciousness, whatever, you know. This other person has it and they just realize that they're paranoid about their parents or something, you know, and it's like so we start dialoguing in this kind of like non-dual kind of language or referencing, oh yeah, but you know, when you're not you and you're the everything, and you're like, yeah, that. And someone's like, what are these guys fucking talking about, you know?
Yeah.
And that the access to those states would be highly influenced by basically how mature is the spark that came here before it loaded up its conditioning and its life experiences and all that sort of stuff. And
totally.
I was never that into that, and lately those using that model, the nuances in that is really helpful, particularly at looking what stages of initiation, you know. So I'm working a lot with the first 3 initiations, which the first one is basically you realize you're a consciousness in a body. It's like, oh my God, like the celestial, we're energy. Whoa, you know. Second one is we start to unpack the shadow and the emotional body. Oh my God, I've realized that I'm carrying archetypal wounds, or father stuff has shaped who I am. And when I unpack that and connect to the divine father, that starts to not be such a problem. And then the third level is really becoming a fully integrated being, of owning all the parts, you know? And so if we're talking about owning your shadow and people are in the first initiation or before that, it's like, why the fuck would I care about that? What can you teach me that's going to help me do better at my job, attract a better partner, deal better with life?
Live life,
well,
yeah.
Totally.
Play the game of life.
Who's in the first or the second? It's like, oh, you mean that if I was to integrate all of my parts, I would be a whole being and I wouldn't be seeking things outside. Then I could really get on with my like soul work. Well, that's clearly the next step that I want to do. Like, it's a different stage of the journey why anyone would even want that, you know?
Yeah, you're thinking beyond this one current lifetime in this particular body with this particular identity, right? You have the capacity to think beyond. And
particularly, and the fourth initiation, which I'm not so much worrying about in the stuff I'm teaching, but is people that are, you know, people like Bruce Lyon and stuff, he's teaching lots of stuff to do with, that's when even the soul starts to hand over to the cosmos or to the void. And it starts to accept that its life is temporary and its purpose is micro compared to the big thing. And so even the soul starts to bow down to the infinite and go, okay, you know, in the same way the ego surrendered to the soul then goes, okay, I surrender to the force underlying everything and I will be your servant. So I'm going to even drop my soul mission that may have been obsessed with for 500 lifetimes. It's like, actually, even that's coming from a wound of separation and even that's bullshit. So I'll put myself on the altar and be, you know, a servant of the universe itself, basically.
Makes sense. Something you said earlier, I was like, okay, because, you know, when I think about language, right, is like language is just codes for our perception of reality or our understanding, right? And then that's how we communicate it. So like often when people are speaking to me, like I'm receiving the words, but like I'm translating the essence of what I feel I'm receiving into language that I understand, if that makes sense. So I'm like constantly like, what does that mean for me? Blah, blah, blah. Something you said where you said, I'm consciousness in a body, I'm energy. I think for me, and you know, this is probably what I've got from Scientology, so maybe it's still Scientology dogma, but it feels true for me. And it's this distinction between the spirit, like Scientology would tell you that the spirit is not energy. Spirit is an awareness of an awareness unit. It was consciousness, essentially. Mm-hmm. Consciousness is awareness, right? So it's not an energy itself, but it is, like if you're talking about energy, you're talking about wavelengths, right? So we can emit wavelengths, we can transmit wavelengths, we can play with wavelengths, we can play with energy, we can play with, we can create energy, we can cultivate energy, we can remix it, we can throw it around, we can make shit, we can condense it, make objects, blah, blah, blah. But the essence of who we are, like from this point of view, is that you are the point of view. You are not the energy itself. So there's like a slight distinction, which is quite fascinating for me.
It's that makes Scientology an ascension-based system, or so
Totally.
basically anything identifying us to consciousness would be, an up and out or a sitting back from. It's kind of a masculine quote. Rabbity is model, and then to be more in the energy itself would be more descent based, or it's more of a Shakti. It's like, I am vibration, I am the life force, I am feeling. And so it's, for me, a fully tantric framework would be to bring those both together and be like, even in kind of like classical tantra, it gets tricky because there's like Shiva and Shakti, which are opposites, but then there's a bigger Shiva, which is the Shiva that is both consciousness and matter integrated into.
Which makes sense, right? Because it's like, if we're looking at, let's just call it God, because God is the universal word.
Hashtag all the things.
Hashtag all the things. Yeah. If God is the universal source and is also the witnesser, well, like if God is a creator and a creation point, and it's what it's created, well, then that's all there is. So it makes sense that it would be everything. And I guess that's the spark of duality, the initial separation from like consciousness and matter, or energy, whatever you want to call it. That's like that initial split. Then you have another split, which makes individual souls, or whatever you want to call them. And then you have another split, which goes, okay, I'm an individual person, but now I split my inner child and this split and the fucking this, and they're all fragmented. So it's like, but it makes sense when you look at it like that, from like zero, and then like it becomes binary zero. Now you have one, and then you go, okay, now you have all the numbers, and you have all the fucking possibilities and combinations.
Yeah.
I know, I just went a bit meta, but yeah.
Well, it's funny because as you're doing that, I'm seeing like, the Hebrew Kabbalah, it's like the one emanation breaks into the 10. So the one is the one, and then it breaks into the 10. If you look at, the Taoist model, it's like we got the 5 elements, which we can boil down to the 2 of the yin and yang, which really is the one. It's like basically that's whatever culture we pick it from. There's all these fucking things. Oh, but those things can be broken down to the 4 big things or the 5 big things. But if you look at those 5, they really can be the 2 big things.
Yeah.
But actually, there's just fucking one thing.
Yeah, the numbers are arbitrary in how it splits.
Yeah.
But I feel you on that. That makes sense.
Like I love that you get into Chinese medicine. It's like, oh, you guys, you're using these elements kind of differently. But it's interesting that, so the Greeks and the Egyptians had the 4, like Captain Planet style, Chinese medicine has the 5, and they're a very different 5. They're much more relational. They're much less like water isn't even water. It's just that it has this changeable nature is more what it's about.
Yeah.
But still, if you look at it if you go back to like the shamanic roots, someone's there sitting in the jungle or the plains or whatever going, cool. So it seems like there's X many main things, like that's really hot and burn stuff. That's really changeable and whatever. That one's kind of fixed. That one's sort of like nothing-y.
It's human beings are incredible. Like when I think about like all of the different languages, even just a language that like to speak, but then the ways that we interpret life and the ways that we interpret spirituality, it's fucking fascinating. Like, the way you understand it, the way Chinese medicine, then Ayurveda, and then fucking like whatever, Zoroastrians, like whoever, and, fucking the tarot, like everything has a system to understand life, which is so helpful. But then we get stuck in the system, of like, no, this is the system. But it's like, the
That's
system
not
was...
yin. What do you mean?
Yeah. What do you mean? It's like, I heard someone say actually recently, it was like, there is no such thing as dark feminine. Feminine is dark.
It's just linguistically a mess, because everything, this is what, when we do with duality and forms, everything is only something compared to something else, So like, which is the Chinese model really helped me get this, I'm going to be chatting with Jimmy Wollumbin on one of these calls soon, who really gave me a very live, like a living download of the elements and the, yin yang and the whole Taoist Chinese energetic philosophy in a really alive kind of way, which I hadn't gotten until then, but that it's all comparative. So nothing is yin. It's only yin, like aerobics, well, you might say that's yang. It's like, well, it's yin compared to smoking crack and, well, kickboxing. That's very yang, you know? And it's like, it's only yin compared to what, you know? And
yes. In the same way, up is up compared to down.
Yeah, it's hot today. It's like, well, I'm from Africa. This ain't fucking hot. This is moderate, you know?
Yeah.
So, well, I'm from Poland. This is fucking super hot. And it's like, so with the dark, light, mask, femme stuff, what I find is those are really useful when I'm inside a culture where we kind of have shared embodied references and an agreement to the same language.
Yes.
And even amongst like my kind of Ista shamanic tantra tribe, it works real good because we've had a lot of the same experiences and we've anchored the language to those experiences. And any of you hang out with a bunch of like kind of Californian new agey tantra crew who are more white lighty, they haven't had those kind of earthy, darker, descent-based experiences. So they kind of just run on a sort of a 90s David Data kind of coding, you know, and it's like, oh, you guys don't have the same nuances as my guys over here. So even amongst the tantra world, we've now got some mask femme difficulties of using that language. And then God forbid you wander into someone who's kind of got some intersectional feminism in their coding or something. It's like, whoa, let's just get out of all those labels and start somewhere else, because we're going to have like, we're going to have a linguistic battleground to even agree what a thing. Also, well, how can you say that the feminine is receptive? Don't you realize that's a piece of patriarchal oppression programming? It's like, look, let's just, would you be open to the words receptive and penetrative? Oh, you don't like penetrative. Okay, penetrative. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I get frustrated with the language shit as well. Sometimes when people get so hung up on semantics, I'm like, just fucking clear it. Just clear the word, please. Shut up.
Are we allowed to have hot and cold? Can we not? You're offended. Okay, right. All right. We've got to forget it. Let's just communicate with.
And maybe, but two things, like maybe that's why the, Zen Buddhists like don't say much. You know, and there's like the calligraphy of Zen where you just like do the perfect circle and then you just somehow, and that's why I love art, because art can transmit a fucking thought, a feeling, a state of being, an idea, a concept in a very abstract way, but you get it, or if you don't get it, you get something inside yourself, which is also fucking valuable.
Yeah. That whole model you kind of referenced before, the light, dark, masculine, feminine, like what in ISTA 2 is called the cross temple, right? Like these breaking everything into these 4 elements that can house everything, which is a model I've loved. That's what's woven through my EP, right? So this Black Dragon thing, every track has something to do with that in there, and it hasn't been done in like, oh, okay, I should write a song that could teach masculine and feminine. Like that's, it's not top down like that. It's more like, these concepts are so really infused with the last 3 years of my life with all the different adventures and whatever I've been doing, that it would have been impossible. In the same way, it would have been impossible for me to write an album as a 25-year-old, which wasn't trying to impress you and wasn't about girls, because that's all my life was. I'm either trying to impress you or pick up that girl. That's all I really know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what subject I address. I could write about cars, but somehow it's going to be like, well, it seems like this guy really wants to impress me, and he's also trying to pick up some chicks. That's that's
the entertainer in you, right? Which is also another archetype we haven't even touched on, because the entertainer has its role and its purpose as well. And when you're doing all your battle rap and being funny, that's like you're a fucking entertainer, right? Which is serves you so much.
But what I'm finding, to loop back to what you're saying, is, I did my first proper show that I felt like was a transmission of me at the beginning of last year at a Tantra festival. And I did like a free form ritual for an hour, which involved me like throwing around, hey, who wants to be Ganesh? Okay. And I throw out a random Ganesh statue. You're now Ganesh. You're holding the earth point for this room. And it was a very freestyle comedic anchoring of the 4 directions and the elements, right? And I just pulled objects out of my bag. This is a crab. Who here is a Cancerian? No, but I recently broke up with a Cancerian. You represent Cancerian and the water in this room. Catch, like you're feeling emotion and anchoring the room. And then did all these weird chants and freestyle. Okay, we're grouping the group into this, this, and this. When it finished, this guy was like, I've been at a Tantra festival for 3 days, and I learned better about what masculine and feminine is in that, what we just did. And I was like, I didn't teach any of that, but we did one bit where we split the room in half, and half of the room, regardless of their body, become the consciousness, and the other half become the matter and the vibration, and the one moves towards the other. So they had a Shakti Shiva energetic transmission, but we had no language barriers because I didn't get into it like, now, Shakti Shiva is a model from the ancient, it was like, and I just got this piece of like, that's way more fun for me to transmit what I have, not get caught up in linguistic models and maps too much, even though I fucking love those. And I guess they're useful in things like spiral practitioners or teaching business or whatever. It's like, cool, this circle represents the da-da-da-da.
Yeah. But you have that crazy, like, improvisational streak that it's, it's that genius where it's like, you could put you anywhere. You could put you in the fucking, like, in Palestine, and you could, like, create some game thing with the blah. And you could, you know what I mean? Like, there are certain people who hold that energy. You just can. That's why you're such an amazing facilitator. But not everyone can do that, but you can do that. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. Yeah.
I think that's where creativity lives for me, is riffing in the moment with like, oh, you guys are excited because you can feel, and you do this too, you can feel that I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And since I'm leading the 100 of us somewhere, and I am very clearly don't know what's going to happen, so you definitely don't know. We're all in the now because, and I would love to get on stage and go, I wonder what's going to happen. And people are like, he's not supposed to say that. He's supposed to, if the bus driver says, I'm not sure where we're going, but is still confident and present, it's like, the bus driver doesn't know where we're going. It's like, well, that is scary, but it's also very exciting because anything could fucking happen. And that's where I feel excited and where I enjoy.
Totally. And I'm assuming, like, it's almost like, did you get that from being a really great freestyle rapper, or were you such a good freestyle rapper because you have that innate ability? It's like chicken and the egg. Which one comes first? Who knows?
Yeah.
But there are a handful of, and the best facilitators are these people, they just have this fucking certainty and confidence in what is going to come through. And they know that it's like, I think the creatives that I love the most are the ones that can find the freedom in the restriction, especially in these times, right? Yeah. It's like, build a house, but you only have a pair of earrings and a hair clip. Like, okay, what can I do? Give me scissors, I'll chop it up and blah, or whatever. Write a song, but you can only use 2 words and 1 chord. Like, it's like when you have these, like, whatever you've got, you can fucking make something from it. Like that. What is that called?
Fish sticks.
Fish sticks. That's the next single. That is the next single, Dane.
Totally.
Yeah, Black Dragon and Fish Sticks. You actually owe me a song. I think it was Pigtails and something in Pigtails. What was it?
Oh, it was like some multi. It was Pigtails and Zigzag, something else that runs.
Yeah, something really good. But yeah, you got to send me that song.
All right.
I'll try and find the notes. I don't know where it is somewhere.
Anything you want to wrap with? I think this is a good place to wrap. Anything you want to take out of here? What are you looking forward to out of what's going on in the world? What do you think? What good is going to come of this?
Well, firstly, I want to do a little plug. So on the 9th of May, I'm doing an online Church of the Goddess, and I've changed the spelling of Church of the Goddess. There's like an X instead of the U in church, and there's an X instead of the E in goddess, because it gives more ambiguity for self-definition. But we're doing a service. And one thing that, like you were saying, you just like love getting things out, and just, I love that too. But something that I hold really important is like quality and like excellence and, the aesthetic and beauty. So this particular Church of the Goddess service is the emphasis is on beauty. So like it'll sound amazing and it'll look amazing. And the quality of people who are contributing is amazing. We've got Kylie Ryan on the first one, Yana Faye, Atlas Talisman, and Alice Knight, and myself. So that's the lineup. It's going to be music, transmission, embodied prayer, like all sorts of cool shit. So that's on the 9th of May. As for what I think is coming out of this, it's really hard to say. I personally believe that anything you can think of already exists in some shape or form on this planet. Like, people live under the ground in fucking tunnels. Like, that's already true. So anything could happen. For me personally, like I'm holding 2 realities. One is the reality of this is going to blow over. I'm going to be able to travel again. I get to meet my boyfriend. We're going to create a home together and continue life as normal. Maybe it's a cashless society. Okay. The other one is, this is it now. You're never going to be able to travel again. They're going to fucking, implant military state, and you live on your computer now. So my whole thing is like, how can I make myself the fucking hottest, realest, most exciting person on the internet? That's the other frame that I'm holding.
Love it.
Yeah, that's my prediction. Well, it could go. 2 timelines can activate.
And perhaps both of those will be happening simultaneously on different frequencies for different people.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I just want to commend you on your robe with the one shoulder, because it's a look, Dane. It's a big mood. We'll call that a big mood.
You're listening to the iTunes version. You're missing out. I'm wearing a white robe. Not else. Cool. Thanks for doing this. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Dane. Thanks for having me.
Give people a lot. So that's what it's about. And I think, yeah, I had fun.
Yeah, me too. I had heaps of fun. Love you lots, Dane.
Cool. Love you too. Peace.
Bye.